you in this courtroom. Good. Now that we've heard the accusation, thank you for reading out loud the accusation, I would like to continue with our ordinary court proceedings. So, Mr. Chapman, you don't have to say anything from now on. This is very important that you know the right to silence is a core element of a fair trial. Before we come and see what happened, I would first like to get to know your name, how you spell your name. Chapman. Tim is easy, but Chapman.
Well, C-H-A-P-M-A.
Thank you. And you are how old?
17.
I wish.
And you live where? The actual address, like on the accusations, that's still the same?
It's 21 Cicada Street, Los Angeles.
All right. And your profession?
I'm out of a profession at the moment, so I'm looking for work.
Okay. Thank you. So, would you like to talk? Would you like to share anything of what we've heard about the accusation?
I've talked to my lawyer, and I'm happy really just to answer questions. I know he has some questions he wants to ask me, so that's okay with me.
All right, but you already know because I got a letter from you, Mr. Alvarez, that you asked me to clear the court at a certain moment when it's appropriate, and to give you the space to ask questions that you have, that you always wanted to ask Mr. Chapman. It's a very unusual proceeding for a court session, but I thought about it and thought, if you have questions and if you ask me to have these questions asked in the courtroom, and if Mr. Chapman would be willing to consider answering, which is completely voluntarily, so you really, it's very important. We've talked about this in preparing the court session a little bit. The prosecutor and the defense lawyer, we got together and kind of seeing how we can introduce this into an ordinary court session. We came to the conclusion that we would exclude the public, but not the conference participants. Because we might, I don't know what comes up, but I want to be sure that if some intimate things come up, that you feel in a safe setting, in a safe room, and you don't have to fear the media reporting it tomorrow. So whoever is from the media of Sassari, I would kindly ask you to leave the room. And if you don't, I would order you to leave the room on the basis of Article 171, the German GVG. I am leading the court session as a German judge. That's what I've learned. Okay, no objections to me clearing the court? Okay, so if you have nothing more to say, I would pass the floor to you and ask your question.
Thank you, Judge. You know, Tim, I didn't know how I was going to start this. I hate you so much. You took something so important, not only important for me, but for my wife, our legacy, and you just killed him. And when you were brought in here and you say you were happy to answer questions, how can you be happy?
Just a phrase, I'm guilty of this offense. I'm going to go down for a long time. I'm not happy, but I know you've got questions.
Was my son just that? Just a phase? For just a thing?
Look, you live in our neighborhood. You know how things work. Your son was in a gang. I'm in a different gang. We don't like each other. He came into my territory. I was with his girl. So we had a fight. And he got the better of me, a few lucky punches. But I can't, you know how this works. I think you come from a gangster family. You know how it works.
Why didn't you just take it? Why didn't you just lose like a man?
But you know that doesn't happen.
My boy didn't have a gun.
That would be Brian, the whole neighborhood. He beat me. You know that's the way it works. I'd lose respect. So I went and got a gun and I killed him. What can I say? It's the way things are. I'm sorry for you. But you played by those rules before.
Who are you leaving behind?
Well, I live with my mother, and I've got a younger sister. Yeah, they're gonna be without me for a long time. I'm gonna see them.
How did it feel when he told you to stop? Because when you shot him, the bullet went through his hand.
Yeah, I know. Look, I don't feel good about this.
You shouldn't.
I mean, I don't feel good about this. I understand you've lost your son, and I know that's a hard thing, but it's the neighborhood, it's the street. This is what happens. This is just what happens. We're stuck in this.
Can you answer a question for me?
Yeah, go on.
How did it feel when you killed him? When you saw him collapse and you saw him die?
I didn't feel good, to be honest. But, you know, I don't think it's a good thing to do. I immediately thought, okay, there's no way I can get out of this, so I'm gonna go down for a long time. So I didn't feel good, but, you know, I was also thinking about myself too. I don't really know your son. He's a different guy. I see him in the distance. Normally we just keep out of the way, but he came in. He came into my house.
Do you have a father?
My father's long gone. I don't know where he is.
How can we make this okay? I feel that you did touch on, you know, my family. We are a historic gang family, and those are things, a lot of the times how things are done. You live by the sword, and sometimes that's how you die.
Well, I know that, and that's one of my worries. When I go inside, your gangster friends could become close to me. It just goes on and on. You know, I don't know how you make something good. You lost your son. That can never come back. You can't turn back. I mean, we're both from the neighborhood. We know how this works. We know how people live here. You know, sometime we have to stop it. I don't know. Me, 17-year-old. I don't know how to stop it, but if you're interested in talking about that, you know, with me.
Maybe we can get, so this is now going beyond what a court session can be about, but would you both be willing to, I mean, we have to deal with you and your client. Obviously, that's one thing, but you already said that you expect something. But I just want to know for the people, the social worker in the room, since you're 17 years old, would you be willing to, because you said on your own, how can we, no, you asked the question, how can we do this? How can we do good? How can we kind of, so what are you willing to do?
Well, look, I know I'm going to go to detention for a long time, so, you know, I don't know, Carlos, when you're feeling angry, you hate me. If you need to talk to me more about this, you can come and visit me. And we can talk privately about the things you need to talk to me about inside. And I promise you, I'll be honest, I'll tell you, just as I am now, very straight. And if you can think of a way to stop all this killing in our neighborhood, then maybe I can talk to my friends. Who knows? I don't know.
I can't help but to transfer that anger to myself, because I was absent. And being mad at you and hating you is easier than being mad at myself. I don't know what that would look like. Having this conversation, I could only understand that my son was just a thing to you. Just a person going into your neighborhood.
Yeah, I have to say that. I don't know him as a person, he's not a friend, in fact.
He was a beautiful person.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, I'm sure he was.
I'm sorry if I interrupt this. During a court session, have you heard of restorative justice?
I have not.
Have you heard
No,
of restorative
what's
justice?
that?
I think it is very important that both of you get more information. Restorative justice means that a mediator, facilitator who's trained in this talks with each one of you separately, can be several times in severe cases like this. And then, if you're both ready, facilitates a meeting between the two of you where you really have time to ask your questions. Maybe you have questions to ask by then, and really get together and have this conversation, which is actually obviously not appropriate to continue in a court session. I hope you understand. So I would highly recommend that there's victim services. Have you already been in touch with any victim services?
They've tried to call and offer counseling and stuff like that. I don't need anything like that right now.
But would you be willing if I would contact the mediation service center, if they would contact you or not?
Will it be similar? Will I talk to him?
Yes, yes,
Because I don't need to talk to someone else. I want to talk to him.
yes. And we have several organizations in the district of my court, and I will ask one of them to contact you and to explain to you more what it's all about. And you can tell her exactly what you told me here, that you really just want to talk to him.
Does that mean that he's
counseling.
gonna get a lesser punishment?
No, that has nothing to do with me and the proceedings. We will continue because your role in the courtroom is a witness. So I needed to hear what we did before of what you know of what has happened. I now need to hear more witnesses. I don't know if we find out that anybody by coincidence has been present and seen what happened, but it's not so important because what you did doesn't work at all. You know that. And in our system, there'll be a punishment for sure at the end of this court session. Maybe it's not going to finish today. But that you took the courage to stand up for it and confessed. I really want to appreciate that because that is rare and it takes a lot of courage. And how was that for you? That he confessed and didn't deny the killing of your son?
I let go a little bit of anger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I came in here thinking that you had a plot to kill my son, and you knew everything about him and you still took him. But understanding that, I know it sounds horrible, but it was a situation of him going into your neighborhood. I could understand coming from that background. I'm okay with it. I'm okay.
Just happened. Yeah, I am sorry.
But see, Tim, it's not supposed to just happen.
I know, but it did.
Because you have brothers too. And you know how we can take care of stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to say it's a very unusual court session for me today because usually the accused don't confess like this and they're not even apologizing very often. So I have to say again that I really appreciate your willingness to enter this conversation like this and to be willing because you wouldn't have to say anything. There's the right to silence that is very important, and you chose to. I know that I let it flow because I knew you had a very good lawyer at your side, and I knew that you had been prepared to this. So, and after the German law, if you confess, there is a possibility of sentence reduction. And if you do, what I could do is to actually postpone the continuation of these hearings. And after German law, if a restorative justice conference has taken place, there is an option that I reduce the sentence, even for severe crimes as murder cases. So let me ask you, what do you think? What would happen? How would that be for you if I would reduce the sentence?
I would have to talk to my wife. There's more people involved in this decision than just me.
Okay, so
I see. I'm not talking to you to reduce my sentence. I know I did the murder. I know I did wrong. I know I did have to get the time. So put that aside. I'm not doing it just to get a shorter sentence.
And I could validate that, Judge. Coming from a background similar to Tim, we just don't apologize. That's the only reason I'm giving you a chance.
Yeah, you know the story. I'm not going to beg for a small sentence, less of a sentence. I'll take it.
does it feel real to you?
I think with a couple more conversations, we'll see if what's the possibility.
So it's my decision, but my sense is it would be best if we adjourn the session and we stop right here. And we will stop for more than 3 weeks and start all over again. And then you have time to meet, you have time too to meet with the facilitator and see if this is what you want. And also what is very important to let you know is that this restorative justice process is also it is very voluntarily, so each one of you have at any moment the time to drop out. The problem we have with the German system is there is a possibility of sentence reduction, so I can tell you many people do it to get the reduction. But even if this is at the first moment the motivation to go into these talks, I can tell you from experience that there's a lot of magic happening and a lot of healing for both sides. So even if it's because of the threat of this, which is not the case. I've heard Tim say I don't do it for this, but I just want to say this is the framework within the law we are dealing with here, because we are still in this court session. And there still is there can be some positive outcome. That's what I'm trying to point out. But what I want to say is that we're going to adjourn the court session hearings. You have time to reflect. If you want this restorative justice conference, you will be prepared. This person is going to get in touch with you, is going to meet you for probably several for this case, because it's such a broad, important case, severe case, and prepare you for this meeting. And if you have the meeting, they will write a report, and the report comes from this file. And the details won't be shared, but the general outcome. And you might even just meet with one another, ask more questions, and feel there is nothing, we are so different and separate, we can't come to a conclusion. That's fine too. So I really want you to know that you're completely free to follow what you want to do, what you need. And what you need is completely separate from this court session and from the outcome of this court, of this case. My task here as a judge is to find a judgment for what has happened. We have to figure out more about the guilt and how the circumstances were, and the sentence has to be in rapport to the guilt, the seriousness of the crime. So since it is a murder case, the minimum sentence will be between 15 and lifelong, which is 25 years in Germany. And usually people get off after 2/3, but it depends on how. So this is the framework we're talking about within the German system. Murder case between 15 and lifelong, 25 years. And within this framework, there can be a reduction happening. I can even reduce the 15 years minimum if the restorative justice conference has been successful. But this is legal. I think let's leave it here. Thank you for coming, and I might ask you to come again, and I might ask your wife to come. I thought one would be enough to testify today. Okay, the court session is over.